ESG stands for the environment, social, and governance, and it serves as a framework to assess company sustainability performance and ethical impact. Investors, regulators, and stakeholders increasingly relying on the ESG factors to evaluate long-term risk and opportunity for an organization. Let's take a closer look at each of three components and how company disclose them and report them. ESG factor assess how company interacts with the natural world. This includes areas like carbon emissions, waste management, pollution control, and climate change mitigation. Practical example will be many companies disclose their scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions. We'll cover these, what are scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 in the later slides. Companies report on energy conservation initiative and the use of renewable energy sources in their operation. Coming on to the social factor evaluates how company manage relationship with its employees, customers, suppliers, and communities. Practical example could be as a part of diversity and inclusion report, companies report on the gender diversity, workforce representation, and equal pay policies. Governance refers to a company internal policy. When we talk about the governance, it is about how the company is governed, how the management act, how the leadership structure is, what are the ethical business practices they follow, how transparent is their decision making. That is why we seek for the governance. Practical example could be the companies usually disclose executive remuneration structures, whether they are aligned with long-term performance goals or not. So ESG in crux, ESG compliant reporting is no longer optional. It is a key driver of investor confidence and corporate reputation going forward. So anyone have idea what is big three in ESG? Let me give you an idea. These are the most talked framework all over the globe recently. So big three are ISSB, CSRD, and SEC climate related disclosures. The European Union has released its own ESG framework, which is called Corporate Sustainability Reporting Directive, CSRD. I'll tell you, this is the most advanced ESG framework. This is the most advanced ESG framework on the line of reporting. Then we have internationally ISSB, Internationally Sustainability Standard Boards, and in the US, it is SEC, Climate Related Disclosures. On the next slide, I just want you to have a perspective in your mind how various ESG framework looks on the world map currently. We are going to witness a world map and where we will actually see which countries are following which kind of framework. Here it goes. So as you can see that on the America side, SEC related disclosures. Currently, there have been a stay on the US SEC climate related disclosure because of the Trump administration. I would say it is a politically aligned. California, they have state-wise because US has many states. So like California has its own ESG framework and disclosures in a rule in place route, which are applicable from 2025 and 2026. And there are like Canada and Canada OSFI, others. Coming on to focusing on European Union, you can see the CSRD that we talked about in the previous slide. It is one of the biggest ESG framework that is covering the European Union. And covering on the Asia Pacific, there are few others like Australia climate related, financial disclosure treasury bill, Singapore mandatory, Indian disclosure framework. But you cannot see the Central Asia in this covered. So now I hope you have a fair idea how big three, which are CSRD, ISSB, and SEC, climate related disclosure, what are big three, and how ESG is placed on the map. What about the ISSB? Now in the next slide, we will see how ISSB is being adopted by various jurisdictions globally. Adoption of ISSB standard by different jurisdictions. So let's focus on how jurisdictions around the world are consulting and adopting the ISSB-IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standard. Since the ISSB issued IFRS S1 and S2 in June 2023, many countries have been assessing and consulting on how to integrate these standards into their national regulations. Several jurisdictions consulting on ISS's board. Canada is exploring how these standards can fit into its existing disclosure framework. Japan is assessing whether it aligns its sustainability reports requirement with ISSB, while Singapore is actively engaging with the stakeholders to evaluate the feasibility of implementation. Some countries have already completed their consultation, like Australia has finished its review, is now working towards integrating ISB standard and its regulations. Similarly, Malaysia has concluded its consultation process and regulatory developments are expected soon. There are many jurisdictions that have adopted ISB standards. Naming few are Brazil, Costa Rica, Sri Lanka, Nigeria, Turkey have either announced formal adoption or outlined to integrate ISB standards into the National Sustainability Disclosure Framework. This is the significant step towards global convergence in reporting. In summary, the ISSB IFRS Sustainability Disclosure Standards are gaining momentum worldwide. Now, I want to give you a short recap. Till now, we have understood what is ESG, how ESG framework look on the world map, and how various other jurisdictions are reporting themselves to adopt ISB, IFRS S1 and IFRS S2.